Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda.
Jai Saparikashi Si Guru Goranga Radha Sham Sundar Giridhari Ju Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Rupanuga Guru Bhagya Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Brinda Ki Jai Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaja Ki Jai Kol Kartel Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So we are broadcasting today from the East London branch of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, as we do most Sundays when we can. Next few days, on Tuesday, is the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev, the advent of Lord Bhagavan, Lord Nrsingadev. And Lord Nrsingadev, he is, Guru Maharaj says, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they have like a peculiar affection for Lord Nrsingadev, and all Vaishnavas actually, although he is not our Ishta Devata, but his Leela is very peculiar in as much as he made the word of his devotee, to prove that the word of his devotee is true, he advented himself from the pillar. So as we know, Prahlad Maharaj, while he was being persecuted by his father, and his father asked him, where do you get your power from? And Prahlad replied, from the same place where you do, Father, from Lord God, Lord Narayan. And Hiranyakashipu became furious. Oh, don't you know that he is my sworn enemy, the killer of my brother, and I have sworn vengeance upon him, that Narayan? Then where is your Narayan? I don't see him anywhere. Where is he? He's everywhere, Father. Is he in this room? Yes, he's in this room. Is he in this pillar then? Yes, he's in this pillar. Then I'll smash the pillar and kill him. So he smashed the pillar, and as he was doing so, a great roar came from the pillar. And it said that roar was so tumultuous that it was heard all over the universe, that the wives of the Asuras, they miscarried when they heard that roar. It was so fearsome, so terrifying. And the Lord emerged from that pillar in his half-man, half-lion avatar, which was not known or seen before, just to prove the word of his devotee to be true. So Nrsinga Bhagavan, he's known as Bhakti Vigna Vinashana, or who removes all the obstacles on the path of devotion. So in our worship of Lord Nrsingadev, we are praying to him, please make us fit for the service of our Lord Krishna, the divine couple, Radha and Govinda, in Vrindavan. Please make us fit, remove the obstacles on the path of our aspiration. Just as you did for Prahlad Maharaj, so please also for us. So that is also in that same day, 1947, our Gurudev, Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, he joined the mission of our beloved spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. Ostensibly, we say, it was their first meeting, and he arrived there just before the Mongol Arti time, early in the morning after traveling all night from his village with a devotee, and he arrived at that time. Guru Maharaj the temple was not built, just a small ashram, a few buildings there, and Srila Guru Maharaj there. And Gurudev said, "Oh, I was a little disappointed when I arrived there because I was imagining something grand. You know," he said, "I read about in Ramayana and Mahabharata. There's descriptions of the ashrams of the rishis, and so I was thinking it would be something like that, but only just a few huts." And he said the brahmachari who was with me, he saw that look in my face that I was feeling disappointed, and he said, "Oh, it is a very small ashram, but a very big Vaishnava, very big sadhu is living there." And that was their first meeting. When he arrived, he came. Guru Maharaj was walking on the veranda outside the rooms and chanting japa when Gurudev came, and that brahmachari introduced Gurudev, and Guru Maharaj immediately saw, "Oh, very special. This is a very special boy." And he asked him, will you stay?" And Gurudev said, "I was a little annoyed by that question, because I already said I was coming to stay, but Guru Maharaj testing me. So I said, yes, I will stay." And that was the beginning. And that was on Nrsimha Chaturdashi in 1947. And so at that time, the mott was Guru Maharaj and a few brahmacharis. And so on that day, they were all observing fast, and also nirjal fast, not even drinking water. And Srila Gurudev said, "I'd never fasted before in my entire life." He said, we are Vaishnava family, so we are observing Ekadashi and so on, but we are not fasting. We are just eating some other type of food on Ekadashi, like aloo dum, or just some plain food, and not eating rice. And that was like the extent of our observance of the Ekadashi. Said so, and Gurudev, many times told us that he really didn't like fasting at all. But so he's fasting, and he said after some time, I saw that in the ashram there was a papaya tree, and up in the branches of the tree a very big, ripe papaya growing there. So he said, I asked the brahmachari, "Prabhu, if I climb up the tree and take that papaya, can I have that? Can I eat that?" And the brahmachari said, "Okay, if half you give to Mahaprabhu and half you can eat." So that was the Gurudev climbed the tree and took the papaya and ate that. So that was their first meeting, so to say, with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And he said one of the first things he asked me was, "Can you follow me and not your mind?" And Gurudev said, "Yes, yes, I can do that, Maharaj." And Gurudev, when telling us about that, Gurudev said, "I was young and thought that wouldn't be a problem, young and naive. But how much we all know how difficult it is to not follow the dictates of our mind." Of course, Gurudev is an exceptional person, exceptional personality, and he was able to master that. But even he said it was difficult. But Guru Maharaj always, watching that and teaching Gurudev, and also he said Guru Maharaj's first lesson was to serve the Vaishnavas without envy, and use this word, Nirmatsaranam. Nirmatsaranam means non-enviousness. So that is necessary in Vaishnav Sadachar, that we should serve the Vaishnavas without envy. When we see a Vaishnava, we should feel joy, and we should not feel any bad feeling towards the Vaishnava. We should always have good feeling towards the Vaishnava. So, Nirmatsaranam means to be free of envy. And this is also mentioned in the first verse of Upadeshamrita, that those who are non-envious, they are qualified to teach spiritual truth to the whole world. That is mentioned there. Hijab. So Gurudev taught us that we have to try to practice non-envy. That is difficult in our conditioned state, because generally we see from our own vision. We always see everything from our own vision, from our own perspective, and that is within our what would you say, like self-preservation, the idea of self-preservation. So we think it is an unfortunate trait of human nature that we like to make ourselves feel taller by cutting off the heads of others. Of course, metaphorically, not physically. At least we hope not like that. But this is our nature. We are taught that kind of enviousness from a young age, competitiveness, to be competitive with others, and that means we like to see others fail in their in whatever they do. If we like to see that people fail, and we see there's a whole industry built around that, you know, with all these like celebrity gossip magazines, so many of them, they like to build up, you know, like take some celebrity and build them up, put them on a big pedestal, and then at the same time look for dirt, some defects in their character, and then exploit that in some way, you know, for sensationalism. And people love it. People love that. Otherwise, why would those magazines be so popular? So we like that. We like to see that. But Mahaprabhu has taught us, and Gurudev has taught us, that we should not be envious of others, and especially not to be envious of the Vaishnavas. So this is Gurudev said, this is my first lesson from Guru Maharaj, to serve the Vaishnavas without envy. And this way, you know, Gurudev would say, even in his later years when he was traveling and preaching, I want to make everybody as my friend. I don't want to make anybody as my enemy. And how to do that? That is by practicing humility, tolerance, and giving honor to others, and at the same time not expecting any honor for our own self. That is the enemy of the sadhaka. Sadhaka means the aspiring devotee. The three enemies, that is Kanaka, Kamani, Pratishta. So Kanaka means wealth, gold, literally gold, Kanaka, gold, and Kamani means the women love for men, and men love for women, and in Kali Yuga men for men, women for women. But it means like physical that physical attraction is our enemy, and pratishta, which is more subtle, and actually the worst enemy for the aspiring devotee. Pratishta means name and fame, or celebrity, or any kind of praise or recognition, which increases our false prestige, our false ego about who we are. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wrote in a poem, all Kanaka, all wealth is the property of Narayan, because Narayan is the lord of Lakshmi, and Lakshmi means the goddess of fortune. So Kanaka and Kamini, then in his poem he said, all women are meant for Krishna. And Pratishta, all name and fame and honor is meant for our Gurudev, or for the Vaishnava. Then somebody told, when Saraswati Thakur was giving a lecture, a man in the audience said, I read in your poem that you say all women are for Krishna. Said, but we are men, then what is our position? And Saraswati Thakur said, it is very clear that you have no position. So we have to allow that conception within us, that everything is meant to satisfy Krishna. Everything is meant for his satisfaction, not for our satisfaction. This is our general idea. Even religious people, they're thinking that God is the provider of their desires or ambitions. That means, as they say, man proposes and God disposes. So that means we make some proposition and God fulfills our desire. And of course that's true. But we are not to use God as our order machine. And we, whatever we have, that He will give that to us. Whatever our desire is, whatever that fleeting, momentary desire we have, that God must fulfill that to us. This is, you can say that this realization is the actual turning point in spiritual life. When we understand that He is not for us, but we are for Him. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says these 4 types of people, 4 types of men, they surrender to me. That those who are impoverished, those who are suffering, those who are inquisitive, and those who are seeking after the absolute truth. So he says, these 4 types of men, they surrender to me. So this is one stage, you can say. So someone who's impoverished, they're praying to the Lord, please, lift me up from this poverty. And the Lord is giving some relief to them. And those who are suffering, please help me, Lord, I'm suffering so much. The Lord providing some relief for them. And then those who are inquisitive, like, what's all this about? Let me try and find out something. The Lord giving some opportunity to them. And those who are actually seeking after the absolute truth, who is sincere, the Lord will reveal Himself to them. But that's only at a particular stage. It is not that once those requirements are fulfilled, then nothing more. It is not that after our suffering has been alleviated, that is, thanks God, I'm on my way now. No, there's some next stage must come. Some next stage. And that is necessary for us. So we were just talking about this yesterday with Madhusudan Maharaj, that Hegel, the German philosopher Hegel, that Guru Maharaj had some appreciation for him. He said that he was a very good philosopher and Western philosopher, but his thinking was very akin to Eastern philosophy, especially very close to Ramanuja's philosophy. And two things that Guru Maharaj liked about Hegel, two of his slogans. One was, he said, die to live. You must die to live. So, in other words, if you want to live in a higher plane of existence, where you are now, that has to die. Or in other words, your false conception about who you are, that has to die. So that otherwise you won't be able to live in a higher relativity. So Guru Maharaj liked that, die to live, that slogan, and quoted that much. And also the second one was that reality is for himself and by himself. Or for itself, actually, Hegel said. By itself and for itself. That means that by itself means not any second person to rival him, or any second power to rival him. And for himself means he exists to fulfill his own purpose, not any second person's purpose. He is not our order supplier. Of course, nothing happens without the sanction of the Lord. Nothing is separate from him. But that is actually not his purpose. And we mentioned yesterday how Guru Maharaj told us about the Mughal king Akbar, who was the ruler of India. After the Mughals invaded India, he was one ruler, Akbar. But Akbar, although his religion was Muslim religion, he was very interested in Hindu or Vedic culture and thought. And one of his favorite queens was a Hindu princess. What was her name? Jodhabari. So, anyway, the people knew that he had much admiration for the philosophy of India, the Vedic culture and so on. So they made an exhibition in Delhi, in a big hall, a display of all the gods and goddesses of the Hindu pantheon, you can say. And as when I speak about this, I always say, not all of them, because they say there's 44 million gods and goddesses in that Hindu pantheon. So that would be like a hell of a big hall. So, but the main ones. So then he was invited there, the king, the Emperor Akbar, he was invited to that exhibition, to open the exhibition. So when he opened up the exhibition, I don't know, maybe he cut the ribbon or whatever it was, but he was taken inside, and he was, one of the organizers is showing him all the different gods and goddesses. Or this is Surja, he's the god of the sun, provides heat and light in the world. This is Vayu, the god of the wind. This is Indra, he's the king of heaven. He provides the rain, and all the different gods. This is Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then and the arts, and this way, so on and so on. Brahma is the creator of the material worlds, and so on. Then they came to the Krishna Exhibition, the part of the exhibition which was showing Krishna. And so they had some depiction of Krishna, and he's standing, playing his flute, leaning against his favorite cow, and surrounded by his friends, the cowherd boys and the cowherd girls, and this way. Then Akbar asked the person who was showing him around, his guide, he asked him, "So who is this?" He said, "This is Krishna." "And what is his function in the world, in the universe? What does he do?" And he thought for a few minutes, and then he said, "Oh, he just enjoys himself. He hasn't got any actual, responsibility in the universal affairs here. That's delegated to others. But he just enjoys himself, just plays with his girlfriends and boyfriends and with the cows, playing his flute and. And then Akbar, being a very intelligent man, he said, "Oh, this is the highest conception of God in your religion. I can see that." And of course, that's true. So this is Krishna. So he fulfills that criteria that Hegel said. If there is an absolute reality, it must fulfill these criteria by itself and for itself. So that is Krishna, and that is the first verse of Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadi Radi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. This is a very well-known, famous verse of Brahma Samhita, collected by Mahaprabhu from southern India. He found this. Actually, Brahma Samhita is meant to be 100 chapters, but it is more or less, it is lost to the world. And Mahaprabhu discovered the 5th chapter of Brahma, and that, what we know as the Brahma Samhita, is only the 5th chapter of that. It means the prayers of Lord Brahma, Brahma Samhita. And this is the first verse, and that means Ishvara Parama Krishna, means that Krishna is the Parameshvara, that he is the supreme controller and the supreme enjoyer of everything. Satchidananda Vigraha, that means he's the embodiment of eternity, consciousness and bliss. That is Krishna. Anadi Radha Govinda, that he is the original cowherd boy. He plays with the cows in Vrindavan. And Sarva Karana Karanam, he is the cause of all causes. So then that means no greater cause than him. There's somebody was saying that they asked their priest, if God created us, who created God? And the priest said he created himself. And that's the fact. He's the origin of his own self. Of course, when we talk about creation and all of those things, we're thinking within the linear material world where everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So everything has a kind of linear existence. But the spiritual world, which is outside of time as we know it, it doesn't exist in that same linear way. So it's very difficult for us to conceive, that that reality is outside of time and space. Sorry? He made a translation of that, yeah. That's right. And our martyrs published that book with the commentary of Jiva Goswami and also Bhaktivinoda Thakur within that book. So there we get a very good idea of the spiritual reality. And that verse is very instructive to us. So Sarva Karana Karana means the cause of all causes, no greater cause than him. And he is existing eternally. Even in Gita, Krishna confirms that to Arjuna. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. And never will there be a time in the future where we will cease to exist. But, he tells Arjuna, but all of the lives that we have had, I remember them all. You don't remember any of them. That's the difference, because he's Parameshvara. Krishna is the Parameshvara. That means he is omniscient. He knows everything, past, present, future, everything. And we are limited in our understanding of the world. By nature, we are limited by our understanding. By our own capacity, it's not possible for us to know everything. As Guru Maharaj would say, what can you know with your puppy brain? So, that it's not possible. We cannot capture the infinite within our finite consciousness. It is not possible. And Guru Maharaj said, once I was giving a lecture at the Brahma Samaj in India. I was giving a lecture, and after I'd finished my lecture, one of the organizers came up and said to me, if the infinite can be known by the finite, then he's not infinite. And he thought, like, in this way, he thought he was going to like top Guru Maharaj, or like defeat Guru Maharaj, who'd just been speaking about the nature of the infinite. And he said, but if the finite can know the infinite, then he is not infinite. That isn't the infinite if it can be known by the finite. And Guru Maharaj said, my reply to him was, if the infinite cannot make himself known to the finite, then he is not infinite. Because the infinite must have infinite capacity, and that must mean that he can reveal himself to us if he so desires. You can say, Guru Maharaj used to say, all rights reserved by him. You can't force him to reveal himself. This is a call from the atheists. Often they say, if God exists, then I demand that he appear before me right now, otherwise I don't believe him. And they say, see, he didn't appear, that means he doesn't exist. But that's like a kind of arrogant insanity. It's like if you went outside Buckingham Palace and stood at the gate saying, I demand that the Queen comes out and sees me immediately, otherwise I don't believe that she exists. And you can shout as much as you like. It's almost certain that she's not going to come out and have a chat with you. And quite likely, the men in white coats are going to come and take you away and put you in a padded cell. And that's just the Queen, right? She's just some mundane person in this world. So what to speak of God? Just because we shout doesn't mean that he has to, make himself known to us. All rights reserved by him. What right do we have to demand anything from him? Nothing at all. But still...
Excuse me, does that go for prayer as well then?
In what sense?
Well, when we pray for something, it doesn't mean to say we're going to get it, does it?
No, absolutely.
He may not answer our prayer.
Absolutely.
We're not that important.
Yes, exactly. So, actually it's said that the Lord only hears, really, he knows everything, of course. He knows your heart and he knows your desires. But generally it's said that he only hears the prayers of those who are surrendered to him. So it doesn't mean that prayer is useless, but for what? Prayer for what? Then, one of my friends that I used to work with, he was a Christian and a nice man, everything, but he was telling me, he said, when we go to church on Sunday, and we know, right, we shouldn't pray for anything for ourselves, we should pray for others. I said, oh yeah, that's good, yeah. He said, so before we go in, we have a little meeting, and I'll say, so what is it that you need? What is it that you want? And so, well, my daughter's taking her exam on Saturday or whatever it is, and we're hoping she'll pass the exam. My car's clapped out. I need a new car. Then, and he'll say, oh yeah, and I need some, something or other, whatever it might be. And then they say, then we go into the church, and I pray for my friend, and he prays for me. The things that we both want, And I said, oh, and you think God's fooled by that? Like he doesn't like clock on to what's going on here. So, we have to think, what type of prayer will the Lord hear? So it should be, and Mahaprabhu has taught us what our prayer to the Lord should be. It should be that although I am fallen, and although that I am unqualified, I need your grace. That's what I need. I need your divine grace. I need you to give your spiritual sustenance to me. I need some spiritual nourishment, and you can give that to me. And whether I am, qualified or unqualified, here I am, warts and all, coming before you. Please be merciful to me. Give grace to me. And the Lord will hear that prayer. So, when we are suffering very much, like they used to say, that during the First World War, that there was trench warfare, right? They're fighting in trenches on the battlefield, and they're going, the Germans were on one side, the British were on one side, and they're both in these trenches. Then at some point the commanders say, okay, it's time to go over the top now, and they climb up out of the trench and they run across. Most of them just die in a hail of bullets, but the idea is to try and take the opposition, gain some land on the opposition, and then they'll make another trench. And it was hell. Those people were actually in a kind of hell. They get disease down there. There's rats. They get trench foot. They get all these things. So they used to say, there are no atheists in the trenches, because they're suffering so much. They're praying, please, Lord, get me out of this, And back at home, their mothers are praying, please bring my son home. Or the wives are praying, please bring my husband home safely. So, this is what we find. When we are in dire need, then it is our nature, or, to try to appeal to the Lord to help us. So, when we are suffering, and when everything's going all right, it's like we're not so interested in the Lord then, And maybe it's like a thumbs up. Yeah, thanks for this. This is great. But no real consciousness of the Lord. When we suffer, we can be more conscious of the Lord, actually. That's why Kunti Devi, she prays, bring on the tragedy, bring more on, because when we are suffering like this, then we remember your lotus feet. And this was the case. When Narad was going to find out who are the greatest devotees of the Lord, and he came to the Pandavas, and Yudhisthira said, don't tell people that we're the greatest devotees of Krishna, or no one will become a devotee. Like when they see how much we had to suffer, and they did. Bhimsen was poisoned. They gave him a poisoned cake, and they put them in this palace made of lac and burnt it to the ground to try to kill them, and so many different things happened. They had to hide in exile for so many years, and all kinds of tragedy came to them. And Kunti Devi saying, when we were in that difficult situation, our only refuge was you. We had all we could think of was you, that you will save us. So this way we can connect with the Lord when we suffer. It is not that we're advocating that people put themselves into situations of suffering to remember the Lord. Sometimes we see that in all religious traditions. Sometimes you see the monks, they're like whipping themselves, and but that is not recommended in the scripture. That the Lord doesn't come because we torture ourselves. That isn't the process for invoking His mercy upon us. But so he is for Himself. He is all rights reserved by Him. We cannot force Him to appear before us. We cannot force Him to answer our prayers. We cannot force Him to give us everything that we want. And actually, sometimes it's good that He doesn't give us what we want. Because, they say if you want to make God laugh, tell Him your plans. Because we think we've got everything figured out. But, that He knows everything. What we don't know, He knows. And so His plan is always perfect. As when we try and make some plan of our own, that we often get into trouble, isn't it? But His plan is perfect, so we should pray, help us to understand what is your plan, what is your desire, what is your proposal for me. And that's in itself is an act of surrender, that we can surrender to his will. Even Lord Jesus, right, the night before his crucifixion, when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, then he prays to the Lord, if it's possible, please take this cup from me. You know, he knows that will have to undergo so much suffering. And he's saying, if it's possible, let it go to somebody else. But then finally, when he gets his courage, then he says, no, Lord, as you will it, not as I will it. So this is surrender. This is surrender. When we surrender ourselves to the will of the Lord. And it is not easy to understand what is the will of the Lord. In fact, it's a very dangerous proposition to try to fathom what is the will of the Lord. Some people think it's the will of the Lord to drive airplanes into buildings and blow themselves up on trains, don't they? They think, oh, that's the will of the Lord. But we would say, if your religion is teaching you to hate others, maybe you're in the wrong religion. Because God is love. God is not about hatred of anyone. So, this is this qualification comes to Krishna for himself and by himself. Even the Lord Narayana of Vaikuntha, the four-armed Vishnu form of the Lord, he has some function to perform in the world. He's the maintainer of the world, isn't it? Brahma the creator, Vishnu the maintainer, and Shiva the destroyer. But not Krishna. Krishna only involved with his own satisfaction. So then, by extension, if he is for himself, then that means his creation is also for himself, for him, to fulfill his purpose. And so by extension, as we are his created parts and parcel, then that means by inference, we are also for him. We also exist to fulfill his purpose. We may not know what that purpose is, but he knows. And by the act of surrender, we get access to that understanding. Guru Maharaj said, this is our proposal. And most people think it's a mad proposal, that by getting one thing, everything is gotten. And by knowing one thing, everything is known. So what is that one thing? That is Krishna. If you have Krishna, then you have everything. And if you know Krishna, then you know everything. So you may not know the minutiae of everything that's happening in the world, but whatever is necessary for you to know, you can know that by surrender to Krishna. Because those who are surrendered to Krishna, they move by inner inspiration, by godly inspiration. Rules and regulations ultimately don't apply to those who are fully surrendered to Krishna. Guru Maharaj gives this example in his commentary of Bhagavad Gita, that how the surrendered, they are inspired from within to serve the Lord. They understand what needs to be done intuitively, and they do that. And he gives this example of the king. The king, in not so much in the Western world, but in Eastern culture, the king often has a harem, where he has many, besides his queens, he may have many women that he enjoys with. And generally, no men are allowed in the harem. Only the king is allowed. But there may be, some eunuchs that can go there for various things, but no, heterosexual males are allowed in the harem of the king. And sometimes that may be like punishable by death if you enter into there. In former times, not so much today, we hope. But so then Guru Maharaj gives the example. If someone comes to assassinate the king in the night, and the king's guard, he knows that the quickest way to get to the king is to go through the harem, through the quarters of the king's harem. He can get through there and rescue the Lord. Rescue his king. But he knows that the punishment for entering the harem, that's death. But still, he crosses that law for the sake of his service to his king. And this is his thinking. Okay, even if my life is forfeit, if I can save my king, I have done my duty. And so he crosses the law. And how the king deals with him, that will remain to be seen. But this idea that even by crossing the law, for the sake of the service of the Lord, we can do anything and everything. And that also is a dangerous philosophy. So, Guru Maharaj would say you have to cut your coat according to your cloth. You have to understand what your capacity is before all of that. Then there is some indication in Bhagavad Gita of what is Ananya Bhakti. That means pure devotion, Gyan Shunya Bhakti. But that is in the explanation of the verse in the 10th chapter, Api Chet Sudaracharo Bhajati Mam Ananya Bhak. In that verse it is said, even the common understanding of that verse is, even if my devotee does something abominable, you should consider that he is a saint if he is truly situated in my service, and declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. And who is able to accommodate that idea, then very soon, whatever trace of wrong is in that person, that will be done away with, and he will become Dharmatma. Dharmatma means fully moral, fully pure in his actions, even if there's some remaining objectionable thing in his nature. That's the general explanation. But the Mahajans means the authorities on devotion in the universe. They are perplexed by this understanding of this verse. And so they had to approach Bhaktivinoda Thakur to get the proper meaning from him. And he explains that it means if you can understand, he's telling Arjuna, if you can understand that my devotee, whatever they do is always right, and if you declare it boldly to the world, you will become Dharmatma. The person who declares that to the world, they will become Dharmatma. Because whoever is fully surrendered to the Lord, there's no question of them having to become Dharmatma. They're already past Dharma a long time ago. So it appears to be redundant, and this is the explanation that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave. He's telling Arjuna, you declare this boldly to the world, that my devotee never perishes. And if you tell that to the world, you will become Dharmatma. The person who declares that, the person who understands that. That is one explanation that Guru Maharaj often gave that explanation. But interestingly, when his Bhagavad Gita commentary was being translated into English, that explanation is not there in his commentary. So Sagar Maharaj, when he was publishing that, he asked Guru Maharaj, but we know that you've given this explanation many times, but it's not in your Bengali edition, it's not there. So why isn't it there? You know, and Guru Maharaj said, because my godbrother, Jajavar Maharaj, he asked me not to include it. Because it sets a dangerous precedent by saying that even if my devotee does something abominable, you should consider him to be a saint. He said then that gives license to everyone to do anything they want, any sinful thing they want, and say, "Oh, I'm a fully surrendered devotee. It's okay, you know. You should consider me to be a saint." So this is the danger of that, you know, the abuse of that precedent. So then Guru Maharaj said, so for that reason, because everyone will say whatever they do, oh no, I am Dharmatma, I am Ananya Bhakta, I am fully surrendered, it's okay, I can do. For that reason it wasn't included. Then Sagar Maharaj said, but in your English edition we should include or not include? And Guru Maharaj thought for a moment, and then he said, no, you must include that there, because if I do not give it, then who will give it? That understanding. So, you know, the truth is always the truth. And sometimes we have to be careful how the truth is explained so that others don't misunderstand it or misappropriate it, you can say. But still it has to be given, the truth has to be given to the world. And so this was Guru Maharaj's decision. Yes, give it. So we need to be careful in our understanding and our application. And Srila Govinda Maharaj used to joke about that. He would say, oh, I heard that in ISKCON they do, when they go for book distribution, and when they're traveling around, they rent a hotel room. This is in America mainly. They rent a hotel room for like 2 people, and then up the back stairs they bring in like another 10 devotees, and they're all staying, like 10, 12 people staying in a 2-man, 2-bed hotel room. And he said, so they're thinking, for the service of Krishna, it's okay, like we're not going to pay the full price. We're going to, but not only that, before they go, they take like the towels with them and everything with them as well, So for the service of Krishna, it's okay. In fact, when we lived at Chaitanya College, Jagannath Prabhu will remember, there, if you remember, right down in the basement, there was like an entrance, and it was all the shoes were there. You remember, in the racks there. So that was how the devotees would come in and out through there. You go down like it was a sort of dark undercroft there, and my mother, she, as a Christmas present, she sent me this really nice denim bag, like a Levi's denim bag, like a kind of backpack. And so I was going to visit my mother for a few days, and I had all my stuff in my bag, and I came down to the shoe room to get my shoes and everything. I put my bag down, realized that I'd forgot something from my room upstairs, so I'd left my bag there and went upstairs to get my whatever it was I'd forgotten. And when I came back, all my things had been thrown on the floor and my bag was gone. And I'm like, whoa, what happened? So anyway, I searched and searched, can't find the bag anywhere. Someone's taken the bag, obviously, And so I had to get another bag, maybe a carrier bag or something, and went. And then a few weeks later, I see this devotee with my bag on his, on his back. And I said, hey, that's mine. And they're like, where did you get that from? And he says, oh, you are a temple devotee, I'm a book distributor, then I could utilize it better than you can in Krishna's service, so I took it. I said, oh, okay.
I said, what did you say?
I don't know, I didn't know I actually don't remember what I said, but,
You let him go with it?
Yeah, I let him go with it, yeah.
Well, you thought, oh yes, he is.
Anyhow, these things go on, you see. So, in fact, it's a fact. The fact is that you can justify anything from the scripture if you want to. If you can find some quote, in the scripture that justifies your position. You go, oh yeah, that's right. That's how it is. That's how it is. So I was right all along. But that's why we are to try to be Saragrahi Vaishnav. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says there are two types of devotee, the Sahagrahi and the Bhabari. The Sahagrahi means who finds the essence everywhere. He can find the essential thing. Even in a filthy place, he can find gold, But the Barbari, that means the devotee that he does everything, but everything's a chore to him, Everything is a pain to him. Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, There's no joy in what he does. Just like a big bird. Barbari means the beast of burden, literally. In fact, it means the donkey that carries the food for the cows. That's the literal meaning of that, the Barbari. So that means that the beast of burden. So the devotee, he's a devotee, but whatever he does, it's just painful. It's just like he finds no joy in that. But the Saragrahi, he can find joy in everything. He can find the essence in everything. It means who's the essence drinker or the essence seeker. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we should endeavor to be Saragrahi Vaishnava, the seeker of the essence. That means, as Guru Maharaj would say, that substance is more important than form. Like every religion has its forms, right? And they may be different. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has addressed that in one of his songs. He says, "Oh brother, oh my mind," he's addressing his mind. Why do you find it objectionable when you see people of other religions worshipping in a different way to you? You're saying, they're worshipping the same Lord. There's only one Lord, but they're worshipping in a different way. Some they kneel down, some they, genuflect, and some they sit in the lotus position, and But you should find joy that they are worshipping your Lord in their own way, in the different way to you. But you should be happy that because there's only one Lord, then there cannot be more. There can only be one supreme absolute truth. And only He is called by different names according to, and worshipped in different ways according to people's culture and people's language and so many things. But the Lord is the same. So you shouldn't feel any problem when you see people worshipping the Lord in a different way to you. So, why was I saying that? I can't remember what I was saying.
Worshipping Lord, one Lord.
Yes, but why did I say that? What was the point I was making? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I guess it'll may come to me.
The satchel.
Yeah. No, after that. Anyway. So the essence, form and substance. So we are interested in the substance. And Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj says often, I'm not interested in religion, I'm interested in reality. Now that's actually the truth, You can say religion is the... You can see that is, right? Religion is man's attempt to reach God. Reality is reality. The spiritual reality. Then we want to find the substance. We're interested in substance. And Guru Maharaj gives the example, the nose and the breath. Which is more important, the nose or the breath? And we see, especially in modern society, people pay lots of money to get the perfect nose, don't they? They're not happy with the nose they were born with. So they, spend thousands of pounds in getting a plastic nose to replace their original nose. And, now it's perfect, now I've got perfect. And they think that's very important. got to go out in the world. People are going to see me. I need to make sure I've got the best nose I can have. But if you can't breathe through that nose, then it's absolutely useless. And similarly, even if something happens that you lose your nose, if you can still breathe, you can live. So we can understand that the breath is the important thing, not the nose. So in other words, the form of religion, the form of worship, everything, it's not that it has no value, because the substance is couched in that, presented in that, but it is not the be all and end all. The substance is the important thing. And even if that means, sometimes we find that the relative and the absolute, they come in clash with one another, and ultimately we have to give preference to the absolute consideration, and that may mean sometimes to sacrifice the formality, for what is actually important, for what is actually the reality. So, like we see, I saw in the news this morning, it was talking about this Muslim group. They want to introduce Sharia law in parts of London and other places in the world. They made like a political party, and they're also going around putting up posters saying, this in this area it's Sharia law, so, and they're telling, yes, we'll enforce it. We have like vigilante groups that will enforce that. So that means, women who are not covering their head, they'll be punished for that. That anyone who's caught stealing, they'll have their hand chopped off, and all of those things. But of course, that's not the law over here at all. But they want to enforce that. And once I saw this documentary about Afghanistan, when Afghanistan was ruled by the Taliban. So they used to have these guys that they just patrol the city trying to find like offenders, especially on Friday, because at Friday you have to go to the mosque on Friday. So if they see anybody out on the street, they'll stop them and ask them why they're not at the mosque, arrest them if they don't have a good reason. So many things like this were going on there, and they kind of were secretly filming it. So like one man had been arrested for giving his brother's wife a lift in his car, because it's not his wife. So then he was arrested for being with the woman that wasn't his wife, although it was his brother's wife, his sister in other words, but no, that was illegal. So they're both in the lockup, and they're going to get 100 lashes for that, So, and more or less you can say that was the standard punishment for everything, 100 lashes. If you trim your beard, 100 lashes. So if you don't go to the mosque, 100 lashes, like all of these things under their law, So, except the capital crime, the greatest crime is apostasy. That means like to reject Islam. So then the punishment for that is stoning to death. So then they asked the man, the imam or whatever he was, saying, maybe, wouldn't it be better if you have a chat with them and find out what the problem is and preach to them and maybe get them to take up the path again, Isn't that better than stoning them? No, that's the punishment, stoning to death. And that's what they're going to get. So, that's form over substance. The form, like in Mecca. I mean, I don't want to just be Muslim bashing, but in Mecca they have a law which was written by Muhammad, that no animal may be harmed or slaughtered within Mecca. So we can understand that means that he was against animal cruelty or the unnecessary killing of animals, but they see that's the law. They accept, that's the law. So what they do, they take the animal outside the city gates, kill it there and then bring it back in. We followed the law. No question about like why was the law? You know, like what's the meaning of the law? No, just we have to follow the law. So this is barbari. And this is the triumph of form over substance. What was Muhammad's intention for making that law? Not that the animals, they make a slaughterhouse outside the city gates and that's fine. No, some other thing. So we have to try to see what is the substance, what is the absolute consideration above the relative conception, and that is saragrahi. The sahagrahi always trying to find out where is the essence and what is the essence. And actually, that's not just something that Muslim people or Muslims may be guilty of. In every religion, you find that, right? In every religion. So in our own religion, in Vedic religion also, in Kali Yuga, the sacrifice of animals is forbidden. It is one of the 4 things that is forbidden in Kali Yuga. But if you go to Calcutta, there in the Kali Ghat temple, the temple of Ma Kali, they're killing goats constantly. Yeah, and they're in front of the Murti of Kali, they have a big wok, and they're just chucking goats in there like Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj, our Guru Maharaj's godbrother, he has a mott near to Kali Ghat, and sometimes Guru Maharaj would send me there for some service, to take a letter, or before internet and all that stuff was up there, take a letter or whatever it might be. And my route took me past the Kali Ghat temple, and which is very famous, big temple of Kali in Calcutta. And as I'm going by, sometimes the priests, they see me, because I'm dressed like this with tilaka and everything. Oh, Prabhu, come in and take some Kali Prasad, they say, and they're laughing. Because they're, and I'm also laughing, saying, another time, brother, I say, and going, because they want me to come and have some goat curry, in their temple, or whatever it is. But, but what do they not, they fail to understand what is the essential teaching. So even where it is given some allowance in the scripture for the sacrifice of a goat before Ma Kali, but there is some condition to that. The scripture says it can only be on the dark moon night. So that's usually when black magic is performed and wicked deeds are performed, you can say. But even then, when you sacrifice or cut the throat of the goat, you have to tell mantra in the ear of the goat. And that mantra says, I am killing you. In your next life, you can kill me. So, and they're telling that and doing it. But what is the teaching there? Why telling that mantra? Because no sane person would agree with that, would they? Oh, now so I can have a bit of goat curry, I'm submitting that next life you can chop me up and make me into a curry. So, no sane person would agree to such a thing. So this is again, form and substance. So we have to be, and these are gross examples, of course, but we have to be interested in the substance above the form. As they say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What is the essential thing? Don't confuse that with where it's couched in the relative ideas or the relative form in which that appears. That is temporary and phenomenal, whereas truth is eternal and essential. But it's not always easy for us to understand what is essential truth and what is relative truth. What is relative? So relative truth means, as they say, you know, what is food for one is like poison for another. One man's meat is another man's poison, we say in English, right? So what may be sustenance for one may be poison to another. One time Guru Maharaj was giving a lecture, and one man in the audience, he was a nice man, but he was writing a book, and so he wants to like find the similarities between Vaishnavism and the teachings of Jesus, right? So he's writing this book about it, and he's asking Guru Maharaj all these questions, and Guru Maharaj giving really nice answers to his question. But finally, like after like 3 days of this, Guru Maharaj said, "Prabhu, your questions are like straw to me." And that man was a little bit shocked, you know. And Guru Maharaj, maybe he realized that, saw it on his face, and he said, "Of course, straw is also food for some, but not for everyone." And then Guru Maharaj said, I'm not an answer booth, you know, like an inquiry booth. You know, why are all these question, for what? You know, not just for you know, like satisfying your curiosity. So, in fact, we remember, right, that Krishna says in the Gita, right, Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. He tells Arjuna, to learn the truth, you should approach a spiritual master, and with your exclusive regard. Pranipat means exclusive regard, and pariprashna means relevant question, and sevaya means service. If these are the three criteria for approaching a spiritual master, and he can show you the truth because he's already connected with that truth, so he can show that to you. Just as a lit candle can light another candle. So that first pranipat, means exclusive regard, and pariprashna means relevant inquiry, not just like inquisitive, like questioning, just for the sake of inquisitiveness. So one of our godbrothers, he asked Guru Maharaj once, he said, "Can you explain the 10 subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam?" And of course Guru Maharaj could do that, but his reply to that devotee was, first you should learn what is an appropriate question to ask your spiritual master. I don't consider that as an appropriate question. And maybe it's an appropriate question for somebody, but that person, it's like, I can tell you that, but how will that actually benefit you? You know? Then look within yourself and see what is an appropriate question. And that means, you know, self-examination, not just like to try and sound clever or something, you know, in front of the spiritual master, and you know, but rather, what's appropriate for you? If I'm here and I want to go there, then how do I go from here to there? That should be the nature of our question, you know? Where I am now, and you'll only know that by self-examination. You'll only know that by self-examination. And sincerity. That means a sincere examination of yourself to understand where you are situated. And then from there you can see what is the goal, where it is that you want to go to. Then what is the path for that? How can I progress from here to there? Then your question should be in that regard. So, and the question must be with submission to the truth also. That's also what pranipat means. It means in a submissive way, not in a challenging way, not in a, combative type of question. where you're trying to score points on the other person, but rather with a genuine desire to understand what is the truth. That is necessary for us. We must approach the spiritual master in that way, not in a challenging way and not in an inappropriate way. What is it that we need to know? And that is called Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan. This is, Krishnadas Kaviraj speaks about this in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. It says this is the subject matter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sambandha means that which is essential for us to know. So Guru Maharaj says sometimes devotees think when they see that someone's giving the class, well, we should avoid that because that's just gyan, that's just knowledge, and we're not interested in knowledge. But that's wrong, because what kind of knowledge? Sambandha, the knowledge of Sambandha, the knowledge about who is Krishna, who am I, what is the nature of this world, how do we interact with one another, and what is our relationship with the Supreme? How do we awaken that? How do we connect with that? All of those things, that's called Sambandha. It's essential for us to understand those things. Otherwise, if you don't have a proper conception, there's no question of you getting any proper realization. Realization comes after a proper conceptualization. So, Sambandha. And then Abhideya. Abhideya means the method by which I go from where I am now to where it is that I want to be. That's called Abhideya. And Prayojana, that means what is the actual goal. So all these things, this is the subject matter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the subject matter of the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To understand who we are, to understand this world, to understand Krishna, to understand Maya, and to understand how all of these things are interrelated. It is necessary for us to know. And then, how do we apply that to go from where we are now to our goal, which is Prayojana? And Prayojana means Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Prema. Krishna Prema. That is the goal. As Guru Maharaj says, to exist with no purpose means to not have any consciousness about where you are or what you need, that is to exist with no purpose. But when you have consciousness, then the soul can search for its own fortune, and its own fortune is ecstasy. That's what we're made for, actually. That soul, the individual soul, is destined for ecstasy, for an ecstatic eternal relationship with the Lord. Only we have to awaken our consciousness to be able to conceive of that and to endeavor for that. Some endeavor necessary from our side. Ultimately, it is a matter of grace. It is not a matter of right. It is a matter of grace. But how to invoke that grace, that is through devotion to the Lord, and the details of that comes when we surrender to the Vaishnava, surrender to the Guru. It is necessary to have a master if we are serious about spiritual life. It's the same about anything. Jai Gurudev. Hare Krishna. If you want to become a doctor or a lawyer or anything, you have to study under a teacher, isn't it? Or, you don't just, you can learn something from a book, but there's no replacement from learning from somebody who's a master of that discipline, whatever it might be. So this is, our proposal is that also. If you want to learn about the science of God, then you must approach a spiritual master who is already fully engaged with that or fully conversant with that. And step by step, we can go in that way. That is necessary. Of course, Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says that anyone who's had a Western education, they'll find this idea of accepting a guru is very difficult. That somebody will have so much control over what you think and what you do and all of these things, because in Western, a Western educated person is taught to be, an independent and self-assertive person. But it is indispensable for anyone who's serious about spiritual life. And Guru Maharaj says, is not that we thinking that the spiritual master is like opaque, or in other words, blocks us. Why should there be a third person between me and God? But rather, he said, it's like he used the example of a telescope. That if you want to see the moon or any celestial body, then if you have a telescope, because it has many lenses in there, and you can focus that, you'll be able to see more clearly the object of what you're trying to see. The moon, let's say the moon in this case. So the guru, the spiritual master, or the Vaishnavas, they are like those lenses. They help us to bring the reality into greater focus, because they're transparent, they're not opaque. Prabhupada used to say, the transparent via medium. The spiritual master is the transparent via medium between man and God. And Guru Maharaj said in this way, that the Lord wants to give grace to us from his side, and we are searching for grace from our side. Where the two meet, that is Sri Guru. That's the principle of Sri Guru. And Sri Guru means Krishna ultimately. Krishna says, Acharjamam vijanayat navamanyeta karhichit. That he tells Uddhava, I am the Guru, I am the Acharya. So Guru Maharaj is saying, not to think in the way of just a mortal body or so on. Not to identify your Guru with that, but the inspired side of a Vaishnava, that is Sri Guru. Otherwise we may be confused.
Then why do we keep photos?
Because that person who gives that knowledge to us, we must revere them, isn't it? Like when you go to the college or the university or whatever, or even the kids when they go to school, they used to bring an apple for their teacher, didn't they, in the morning, to show appreciation for what you've taught us. But it's not their teaching, is it? They're following the national curriculum, right? So they're teaching what the textbooks have told, but they realize they need a teacher to do that. And you identify with just now, my daughter, she's just finished her school, and so she's buying presents to give to all of her teachers. She feels some debt to them. So similarly, who has given us the light of spiritual knowledge, we must feel indebted to them. And of course, there's two types of service to the spiritual master. That is Vapu and Vani. Hare Krishna. So Vapu means the form, and that is also important to serve the lotus feet of the Guru. Vapu, that service. But not everyone can do that kind of service. Vapu. Sometimes, in fact, to come too close to the spiritual master may be harmful for some. As they say, familiarity breeds contempt. In your dealings with him, you may see him in a mundane way. But always higher and more essential is service to Vani, the Vani. The Vani means the teaching that he imparts. That's the important thing. But it doesn't mean that the person who gives that knowledge to us is nothing. that would make him like a computer or something, you know, like just doing a Google search. He is a Bhagavat. Bhagavat means two type of Bhagavat, the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. So the book Bhagavat means Srimad Bhagavatam. All the spiritual knowledge is contained within the Srimad Bhagavatam. But if you read the Bhagavatam, you may not understand it. You may read something and get completely the wrong idea. And the book won't correct you, will it? The book's passive. The book's not going to say, no, that's not what it means. But the person Bhagavat, the person who embodies those teachings, Sri Gurudev, or the Vaishnava, or the Sadhu, the saint, they embody that teaching, and they're not passive, they're dynamic. So when you misunderstand something that you read, you say, oh, is this to your Gurudev, is this the correct understanding? You can say, no, you're very foolish if you think that this is the actual meaning. Okay. And also, if while you're reading the Bhagavatam, if you fall asleep, the book won't wake you up. You may wake up and find you've been drooling all over the Srimad Bhagavatam. But the Vaishnava, the Bhagavat, person Bhagavat, Prabhu, you're falling asleep, wake up, you know. There's the difference. So for us, the person Bhagavat is more important than the book Bhagavat. Just because of that, the book is passive, the person is dynamic. So it's always necessary. And in every field of life, it's necessary to have a teacher. So no less important to have a teacher in spiritual life. And as many guardians as we can have, that means more lenses in our telescope. The more lenses that you have, the better focus you can get on your object, the object of your vision. So if our object is the Lord, so many guardians and well-wishers, helpers along the way, they can help us to reach that goal. So then we are fortunate if we can find that. Guru Maharaj said we should always be anxious to find those devotees who are on a more advanced level than ourselves. Then we can progress. And he said, if you find there's nobody of higher awareness or progress in the line than yourself, then you're in a very unfortunate position. That's what we need to be able to progress in life. You need that. Just like, if somebody wants to become expert in business, then they'll find an expert businessman, and they have that TV show, don't they? The Apprentice, right? So they'd like to look to become the student of that guy who's the, master businessman. They'll become his apprentice, then they can be successful in business. They'll learn the tips and the tricks and everything from that. It's a mundane example, but same thing in spiritual life. Those who are established in devotion, fixed in devotion, if we get their association, some of that can rub off on us. We can learn the tips, the tricks, how have they done it? How have they walked, those who have already walked that path? What were the things that they come up against? We all have many problems and obstacles in our spiritual life, but we shouldn't think that these are unique to us. Anything you can conceive of, someone's already dealt with that. So then we can get help from those who are more experienced than us, for those who have a higher realization than we do. As long as we approach them with the proper attitude, then the things that have benefited them, they'll also benefit us. And ultimately it's about grace. So as much as they are infused with the grace of the Lord, that much they can impart that to us. It is not about, but at the same time, it is not about like a personality cult or something like that. If it is a personality cult, it's the personality of Krishna that we're interested in. And the Vaishnava is the transparent via medium to Krishna. As Prabhupada would say, as it is, not as I interpret it to be, but as it is. Bhagavad Gita as it is. As Krishna spoke it, what he meant to say, That's what we're just repeating that. What our Guru Maharaj has taught us, we're just repeating that. We're not making up any new thing or, trying to give our own opinion. Because everyone has an opinion. But what is the value of that? We're interested in the opinion coming from the higher world. So, anyway, these are some thoughts for today. Now it's 2:30, so we shall stop here for today. I'm getting the look from my wife at the door, like, finish it up. So thank you all for listening to me, and those of you who are viewing from home or will maybe see this recorded later on, thank you very much. You can't see actually that here I forgot my tripod today, and so I'm actually broadcasting off the top of a tin of Leyland paint. So, but it all looks okay. I just revealed the secret to you there. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bhagya Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Brinda Ki Jai. Kol Kartel Ki Jai. Sri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Gaura.